So, why do people ghost? There's a couple things that happen from a therapeutic perspective. So, the first is miscommunication. We are all not really active listening to a very good way when our heart is involved. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of miscommunication going on where we think we're hearing something because our anxiety is picking up on it. We're trying to protect ourselves, which is very valid. But a lot of times when people are ghosting, it's because communication is happening and they either feel like they're not being heard or they're not really being heard, and then engagement gets kind of negative, or two people are not on the same page with something, and then people ghost because they feel like, well, they're not listening to me, or because we're not on the same page, or there's a negative interaction and there shouldn't have been, and so this person might be reactive. So that's sort of their overreaction to something that they think is happening. So everyone filters information from a different perspective. So if we're not actually actively listening from a curious perspective, because our heart is involved, our fear is getting the best of us, we're hearing what we think we're hearing, and then we can go back and forth in a miscommunication engagement, which only makes a negative interaction happen. So people ghost because these miscommunications are happening for the most part. So the second reason is that they're being triggered with something that they are not comfortable with. It could be a judgment. It could be an old wound. Whether you're saying these things or not, it's how they're filtering it. So maybe they're feeling inadequate because they're feeling like everything they're doing isn't good enough, or, they're not showing you enough. And that brings a wound for them where they're feeling inadequate and they feel like they can never make maybe their parents happy or whatever. And that negative feeling, they're going to respond in a way where they're going to want to run away from it because they're not going to want to feel that way anymore. So while ghosting is painful for the person who is having the ghosting experience, it's not necessarily because of anything the person has done or hasn't done. But I do suggest that you think about active listening, what you're hearing, what you're saying, and the other person as well. Both parties need to be doing this for a good, healthy communication, because when you're really hearing each other, then you can navigate whatever happens, unless there's a really big issue that comes. So in my experience, clients often come in and tell me stories about little tiny engagement miscommunications where they really are hearing these things that are happening. And I only know one side of it, but I've also heard the other side. And so I know that people are hearing and receiving in different ways. So if someone's ghosting you, it's not because it's something that you've done or haven't done. It's because there's a miscommunication and everyone's hearing things that they're trying to protect themselves from. Or it's because they're feeling something that they don't want to feel anymore, a wound, a trauma, a disempowerment, whatever it is. And so they're ghosting because they don't want to feel that way anymore. So I know it can be painful when you're ghosted. I know it can be confusing, and you can lose hope and trust in people when you're ghosted. But remember, it isn't about you. It's how they were feeling in the moment, which could be whatever their filter, whatever their wounds, whatever their history is. And so be aware that when you're hearing something, that you're asking, that you're clarifying, because you don't want to build a distrust in a situation where it might not be exactly what's happening in the moment. So we're trying to protect ourselves, but we're also trying to connect. And if we're always keeping ourselves in that safe position, that's the opposite of connection. We're going to disconnect. So I hope this was helpful. And just remember, yes, ghosting can be a little painful. It can feel like a rejection, but it's not. It's whatever filter was happening with the other person. So your side of empowerment is going to be really actively listening to the other person, really engaging, knowing your own triggers, knowing your own needs and your own boundaries, and communicating. And if that doesn't work, that's okay. Let them go find somebody else. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.